Hey guys, so today I'm gonna do something different. I want to talk about my music taste of all things. So, I want to talk about how that started and generally how I developed the taste that I have today. So, um, well, the first band that I really started listening to was probably like officially was Imagine Dragons. And I know that's kind of like, a band that everyone has heard of, but you know, my kid brain at the time really liked it. And I would say that's probably around maybe age 12. And I also really liked dubstep at the time. So, you know, 2012 kid, 2013, that was kind of the music of the time, or at least, online it was. So, um, I can't remember when, but I ended up listening to 21 Pilots, and then that was the first band that I actually got really into listening to. That band was pretty big for me, and I followed them pretty closely up until the last album that I really listened to was Scaled and Icy, and I loved that album, don't get me wrong, but I just didn't keep up with them as closely after that, so it's been kind of like I've heard some of their new music and it's really good, but I just haven't followed them as closely as I maybe want to. So there's that. And there was a lot of, I want to say, foundation that was placed. So, for example, when I was younger, my mom, when she would drive me from place to place, she'd have the radio on, and generally she would listen to, like, well, I mean, early 2000s pop that was on the radio, so I'm one of those kids. I really like early 2000s pop, but she also listened to, songs from when she was younger, so like 80s music, but also like a little bit of, like, oh, how do you put it? Oh, well, Fleetwood Mac for one, so, but then it got into stuff that was, I guess, more like on the early, like, classic rock, hits from that era, I guess. And also, my father at the time was a roofer, so he worked on top of roofs, and he'd have a truck, and he'd always have his truck open for me to hang out on while he did work, and he'd have music playing from the radio, and that was usually, you know, early 2000s rock at the time, so not all like emo music per se, but definitely, hits that you have heard of. So stuff like Paralyzer and The Middle. So songs that definitely became big at some point for me or bring back a lot of memories. So every once in a while I will stumble across like an early 2000s song that was um, kind of big. Like it brings back a lot of memories. Like I think the most recent one that I have listened to was Into the Ocean. I forgot who it's by, but that song definitely was like, whoa. Like that brought back a lot of memories. And so, there is a lot of music that is from that era that really takes me back to those moments. But moving forward, from 21 Pilots, I would say the next band I got into was Starset. Probably, maybe, may have heard of them, but if you haven't, they're like a rock metal band ish from kind of like the mid 2000s. Or I'd say like getting into kind of like 2014 to 2018 type era. I mean, they still make music today, but that's when, like, the time that I listened to them, I suppose. And the reason I actually got into them was because I used to play Destiny a lot on my PlayStation, and there was this montage on YouTube that had the song "This" or "It Has Begun" by them, and I was like, "Dang, this song is awesome!" And then also, it had there was another montage that had their famous song, which is like "My Demons" or something. But oh yeah, no, and that takes me back too. But some music that I also was listening to around that time was, I think, Fall Out Boy started to kind of run around, like I'd occasionally listen to, as well as like Panic at the Disco. So my emo was definitely in the works at the time. It just hadn't, fully taken form yet. So I definitely liked emo music, even like way back then, because, technically 21 Pilots, and then that just moved into other music as well. So it's definitely been a thing for me for quite some time. Um, After Starset, I'd kind of listen to, whoever at the time that really piqued my interest for a while. I'm trying to think if I like super got into any band. I don't think so. But I guess if you want to fast forward a ton, off of just listening to miscellaneous music, I started to really get into My Chemical Romance. Go figure, like the staple of emo music. And when I got into them, like I really got into them. Like all I listened to for almost a full year. Just going through the albums over and over and over again, and then like learning about the story and just getting so deep into like the lore, I suppose. So yeah, My Chemical Romance has been pretty big for me, and actually in 2025 I got to see them live, which was coolest concert I've ever been to in my entire life. That is definitely something I will remember for quite some time. Oh, that concert was so cool. I saw them in Chicago, and man, that was so theatrical. Anyways, um, after 21, or no, sorry, after My Chemical Romance, I actually got really big into Glass Animals, and so I have, I actually also got to see them live the same year, about earlier that month, and that was awesome too. Like they starred in my hometown, and that was just, it was a cool experience because it was the first time I went to a concert by myself. And I remember that, I was so nervous. Like, I had never been to a concert by myself, and I didn't know what to expect or, like, how to go about it. But, this, like, group kind of, like, adopted me. during that concert, and that was so cool. So we kind of just bounced off of each other. I mean, I didn't end up talking to them afterwards, but it was a cool experience. Um, I think, can't remember if it was early 2026 or late 2025, but I also got to see Stomach Book live. It's actually how I got this shirt. I probably should have wore a band shirt. Um, I would say, there's a lot more that I listen to because I have a Spotify playlist of like 3,000 plus songs, I think, something crazy like that. And I genuinely love listening to like all of that music, but I am definitely big on indie rock. Oh, and I just remembered a band that I actually really love. There's a few, but um, indie rock has been pretty big for me and is a genre that I genuinely adore. Like, indie rock has been huge for me and kind of just getting me back into, you know, I don't know, just, I don't know what I'm saying. I just love indie rock. And I think me loving that genre really started to hit when I started listening to Acid Ghost. So, now, if you've actually heard of that band, that is genuinely impressive. So, congratulations, you know niche music. Um, it's actually because of someone that I got into Acid Ghost. I really had feelings for this one person, and I remember just listening along to their Spotify, and then this one song called All Alone by Acid Ghost just, popped up, and I was like, dang, I really like this song, and, like a lot of furry things that can happen, that relationship ended up turning into a situationship, and then I got ghosted. I got ghosted for quite a long time, and that wasn't super easy to deal with. And I ended up looking into the artist a little bit more, and you know, the music started to kind of like hit those emotions, like the heartbreak, like really hard. And I don't know, I just ended up really, really loving the music. And it just was, it hit different for me. And so I have this like special place in my heart for Acid Ghost because of that. And like, I literally love like the music. And I have a friend who is a music teacher, and I love him to death. He's amazing, but he um, he was telling me like, because I send music back and forth between him, and he said that he definitely has become accustomed to like my music taste and has recognized it through a lot of dissonant and reverberated and you know echoey or kind of muffled guitar melodies and harmonies. It was really cool. He gave me a really neat observation of what he identified as my music taste, and he's just a very creative person as well. So that was just lovely to hear. Um, some other people that I listen to in that same genre is um, sales. So I'm not like super super big in sales, like, but I've heard them like a lot of their music and some of their songs like I love. Like I remember Renee was pretty big at one point on like Instagram or TikTok, and I just ended up falling in love with that song, and I don't know, just couldn't help but love the way it sounded, and it really stuck with me. And then a band that when I was close with my roommate that I really liked is trying to remember the name of it. Oh, Cafune. I love Cafune. I think that their music is just, ooh, it's so good. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the emo metal like rock scene, but something about just the the vibes of indie rock emo is just it's different for me, and it just hits so well. Oh, I love it so much. It's like hits right here, hits home for me. Um, I do like some classic rock, but I actually didn't really gain an appreciation for classic rock until I started playing guitar. And I didn't get that nice PRS until, ooh, I'd say probably well into a year after learning. I took lessons for like a little bit, for maybe like a few months, like going once. It's either like once a week or once a month or something like that. And I got okay. Like I'm not an insane guitarist by any means, but I only did one lesson a week, I think, for about I think 6 months, and then I just completely dropped off. And then ever since, like my guitar playing was very off and on, but uh, recently I started playing a lot more, and this baby over here has been so. I love it. I love playing guitar. It is genuinely a fun hobby for me, and who knows if I end up pursuing it more. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But it's still something I love to do. Um, Trying to think of more music artists that I love and just haven't mentioned. And then, I've had like bands that I've saved like individual songs from, like Taking Back Sunday, Sleeping with Sirens, The Used, a lot of those more like emo rock or emo metal bands. Oh, I know there's more in there. Oh, I remember now. So, speaking of like the early 2000s rock or like I guess, rock of that like era or scene, 3 Days Grace, can't forget that. A Thousand Foot Crutch actually is a band I got pretty big into listening to, based off of a friend. And then there is another band that was a little bit after that, written by wolves, that I really ended up liking, and that was pretty cool for me. So, um, I have music taste that kind of just bounces all over the place. But some things that I always return to are like emo rock and indie rock. Always genres that I find myself returning to time after time, and you know, just things that matter a lot to me. And so, yeah, music is a pretty big part of my life, and it's pretty important, just having bands that matter a lot to me and that I like listening to has made a difference for me. I'm sure that, you know, music for you guys has been a lot different. Um, and I got into different bands. Oh, wait. I just remembered an artist that I am like criminal for not mentioning. So, an artist that I really got into is Eden, or the Eden Project, and he is like the defining indie rock genre for me. Besides like Acid Ghost, like he's like right there. His music is been I remember just that was like emo for me. That was like my emo music, but um, yeah, definitely his music was pretty big. I probably should have come into this like prepared, like had a list ready because a lot of stuff like I'll forget for a little bit and then it'll like come back to me like mid conversation and then it like the organization of it just but I just like trying new things sometimes just to see if it's something that people like or just see if I like it. Because I like to try new things. Um, Maybe at some point I can kind of figure out some good guitar tunes and then end up playing some for you guys, like as an outro or whatnot. But we will definitely see if that's something I want to end up doing. But yeah, I think that's about all that I really have for you. Thank you so much for like listening to me rant about music. It's definitely a topic that I love to death and definitely would love to talk more about, depending on like if this is something you guys like or want to see. But yeah, I hope the layout was kind of nice since I'm moving soon. I don't really have any fancy decor to set up in the background, and so my I tried to make it as cozy and nice as I could with this white sterile background, but either way, um, I hope you guys sleep well, and I hope this video finds you well too. Lastly, I would love to thank my supporters because you guys, like I've said many times, are literally just making my dream come true. So, Davian, Jeb, Bingus, Pizza Rolls, and Sleepy Boyo, thank you guys so much. And a huge thank you to Cetal, Mel, Effervescent Drag, Old Glory, and Holy Moly Spiky. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome, and I love you a ton. You know that. I love you guys so much. May you sleep well. Good night.